So I wanted to start with a fun question. Also one inspired by a certain Easter egg in the movie. If you two were stuck in Glore Valley, so stuck in this time loop, for each of you, what would your greatest strength be? The thing that would help you survive the night. But then also, what would your greatest weakness be? The thing that would do you in?
The greatest strength is that we've seen a lot of horror movies. So we might be able to figure out, like, oh, I think this night is this genre.
Could be a weakness, though, too, because it paralyzed me knowing that, like, fuck, any kind of wrong.
Yeah, I know what's coming. So I was like, I'm just going to crawl down and die.
Yes. The greatest strength. I think you're right. Like, you kind of. Fuck, man, that is tough. I'm more like the weaknesses. I have a lot more of those than strengths. So I feel like it's a lot of just cowering in the corner.
Yeah, I get that.
Screaming.
Every time I think seeing a whole bunch of horror movies would help me, I think about what happens to those particular characters. Like, they don't make it to the end more often than not, so...
No.
Yeah. But the thing we remind actors all the time is, like, you don't know you're in a horror movie, so you can't act. Like, you're not scared yet because you don't know. Like, you just heard a sound in the other room. It's just a sound. How often are you sitting at home, you hear a sound in the other room, and you just go in the other room and check it out?
All the time. One time, something will get me.
Yeah.
So going back to the beginning of this process, Gary, I'll throw this your way. What would you say is the biggest difference between draft one of this screenplay and the final film that everyone's going to see in theaters?
The biggest difference, that's a great question, because it's a lot of drafts. I think a lot of it has to come down to character stuff. Like, there's different character choices. There were, much like the game, some died, some, survived. So I think it was really about some character choices, character relationships that really changed from draft one to where the movie's at now. I don't think we changed too many of the scares themselves or genres.
Tweaks to them. And
tweaks, but nothing crazy. It was more character stuff and mythology, lore, things, and we thought a lot about the game and where we could, talking to the developers a lot, that made some tweaks too about where they saw kind of the overall arching lore of the franchise. So things like that were, kind of the biggest changes from draft one to, the movie.
Can you give me an example of that? A time when the collaboration with the game developers really wound up shining through your story idea that people can now see in the movie?
I could. But yeah.
Should we save it for the spoiler section?
I think it was Dr. Hill, really, and his character, what he represents, what he does. That was a lot of back and forth and conversation.
Gotcha. So, David, now I'll lean into the characters with you, specifically with casting a movie like this, because it does feel like the success of the film hinges on finding the right ensemble. And you want to find an ensemble of actors who all suit their particular roles. But I was wondering, did they all have some sort of shared quality that signaled to you? Not only would they be able to play their characters, but they would be able to handle, the horror filmmaking aspects of it all.
Well, they all share the fact that they didn't listen to my warnings about how difficult this movie was going to be for them, because that's sort of when we did casting, telling them, listen, like, you're going to be wet, you're going to be bloody and dirty, you're going to have to crawl through dirt and like do stunts and all these things. And they still did the movie. But you need those kind of people who are really up for it. And like, it was a long casting process to find everyone, but but we did it right because they like were instant friends and like got along so well.
It's great,
super easy.
Yeah,
to
great,
work with.
Great chemistry. Yeah.
Follow up on that briefly. Of all the key roles in this movie, which was the easiest to fill? Where like the right person just magically appeared, but then also which role in the movie was the most difficult to find the perfect fit for?
Well, Peter, of course, because he's in the game.
Yeah.
That would be the easiest.
Odessa was pretty quick as Nina because it felt like, well, that's how I see Nina. Like that's perfect.
Cimino, I've worked with, I worked with Michael on Annabelle Comes Home.
Yeah, so he was.
I love him.
Been following him ever since. He popped so nicely in that movie.
He's the best.
I mean, when they're right for the part, they're right. You know? So it's like, you sort of look for a long time, but as soon as you see them, it's like, that's the person,
Mm-hmm.
I'll squeeze in one more non-spoiler question before I tack on a couple spoiler questions. I was reading a lot about how you approach making this movie as a love letter to horror, and I feel, as a horror lover, I feel that big time, and I do understand there's going to be a multitude of answers to this question, but if you could each pinpoint, I guess, the number one thing you wanted to, like, pay homage to or really celebrate through Until Dawn, what would it be and why?
Well, we wanted to stay true to the feel of the game, and I mean, a big part of that is sort of the slasher element and the Wendigos, really. So it was those two things were important, especially so that first slasher night, and that was something that I really enjoyed a lot. As I'm not the biggest slasher fan, but I've sort of been converted after doing this, where it's like, oh, this was really fun, and it turned out really well. Like, I think I have to do more of that.
Make a slasher movie.
Yeah,
next.
I know.
It was really
Speaking
fun.
to my heart right now.
I mean, I think it really is that love of all the genres of horror that we really wanted to celebrate, like as you put it, and and also just as a fan, being able to write some stuff that I haven't been able to write with the horror movies I've been able to do. I haven't done a body horror necessarily, so it was great to be able to do that sequence. The Descent's one of my favorite horror movies, so I was able to play around with that we haven't been able to do. So that was, just as a fan, I was thinking more about like what are the selfishly, it's like kind of what are the what are the things I want to play,
So
be
shot
able
or
to write.
two in
It's
this
great.
movie that brought me right back to The Descent,
So
and
good.
it filled my heart. All right, at this point, I'm going to lift the spoiler warning so you can answer these next two questions freely. Of all of the outrageous kill scenes in this movie, which did you think was going to be the toughest to pull off, and ultimately was it, or did a different one catch you by surprise?
We had the same answer. You can
Thinking of the explosions?
Of course. Of
Yeah,
course.
no, I mean, it was such a big sort of question mark if that was going to work. But I was so happy when it did, and it's such a simple thing to do. You just have the actor there, cut, bring in the dummy full of explosions, and blow them up, and it just works so well.
And it was the end, right? Like the last couple.
It was at the very end because we destroyed the set with all the blood and explosions.
So there was a lot of texting with the studio going like, maybe we might need another day. If this doesn't work, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Like this
And
is,
I mean,
it's a big gamble.
And just to be safe, we
But we did
shot
not.
like empty plates in case it didn't work and we would have to go to visual effects or CGI. But thankfully it did work. And our VFX supervisor who was there, looking at it, he was like, yeah, you can't get that with CGI. Like all the interaction with
so great.
with everything in the room
Yeah,
and
yeah.
blood hitting it and all the little chunks of flesh,
Yeah. I mean, just looking at the dailies, it didn't. I mean, I don't know how much even changed from dailies. It just, you did a quick edit on set, and it just looks so great. From when Abe is on the bathtub there, and he's just leaning forward, like it just even on the day, it just was like, oh, you're not going to need to touch this. It's so great.